This is Kamen MK, and I'm coming right at you at the 3 Count Podcast right now.
Do you wanna get live with me? Do you really wanna ride with me? I'm in the club, baby, grind on me.
Welcome everyone into another great edition of the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Into Ring, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And by now, with it being season 5, our 300-something episode, I would just hope you say with me, I am your Sherpa, because like your tribal chief, acknowledge me. But like every good Sherpa, you got to have someone who's been there, done that, and can do it more efficient than you can. That's why it's never about me. It's about who's entering the ring. So who's entering the ring? You can find this man at the Flying V. You can find him at EWA, SWA, Worldwide Dojo, and Route 33. He is the Henshai hero. He is the Jawbreaker. He is the man from the City of Angels. Lost ones at that. He is Kamen MK.
What an intro. What a pro. Red Dog bringing it in. Look at Champ over there. Oh, what's that behind your shoulder over there? What's that? What's that?
Oh, it's a title. It's just hanging out.
Hey.
This whole thing, I just pulled that out of nowhere. I see you got one too, just chilling out behind you.
Yeah, that's right. That's the Mid-Atlantic title for SWA.
Yeah. Remember, you taking down, the one known as Andino on his birthday of all days.
Yeah, I hate to disappoint. So I decided to win for all those who didn't want to be disappointed that day.
Yeah, well, it's his party and he can cry if he wants to, but he ain't walking out with the title. No, it's pretty cool though, because like that guy right there it's inaugural. Like I was the inaugural Infinite Plus, which actually you see down there is our their network. So it was definitely pretty cool to be attached and to be showcased as an inaugural. So I was definitely excited and honored that I got to be that person. So, but no, man, let's talk, because we have a lot of connect. We've known each other for a couple years now. And it's been such a fun ride to get to know you and get to like chat with you, like whether we're at SWA or EWA. It always seems like we're always around each other, and it's just like two dudes with like tons of positive like balls of energy that just like blow out everybody else.
And anything other space that would be like a nuclear reaction, but us, it's just positive, right? It's just more positive.
There's like no reason for anybody to be negative in the back. Everybody's just like, bro, you see Red Dog and fucking Kamen, like they're together, and it's disgustingly positive. Every time you walk in there, you just instantly smile.
Yeah, I try to. No one really sees it though, but I have a huge smile on my face.
We read the eyes. That's how we tell.
He's either smiling or having a reaction. We don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, is there a bee in here or something? Like, what happened? Somebody was eating peanut butter again, weren't they?
Oh.
But no, like the cool thing about it is that like I get a chance to like kind of vibe with you and stuff like that, and talk to you about the business and things like that, and we get to have like these fun interactions that like one are valuable. And I'm sorry that you guys don't really get to hang out with me outside whatever the interview show is doing, but like I get to like sit back and chat, and we have these great conversations about like developing and understanding and training and like networking and how important it was and how important it is. And it's like I remember because I had mentioned about Eel O'Neill like dropping some like advice to me, and we were at EWA. I think we were in Havre de Grace, and I had mentioned it, and you're like, yeah, that's why Eel is the best, because like he gives out advice just like that, and I 100% agree with it. And I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, he sweats, bleeds, and grunts for those lessons, and he just gives those lessons out for free now. That's beautiful.
Yeah. But yo, let me ask this question, right? Who is Kamen MK?
Your Henshin hero, your Tokusatsu titan. Pretty much I'm pretty much like a guy who enjoys being a hero, enjoys inspiring people, and enjoys trying to, I don't know, tempt fate and see if I could do the impossible every time. Whether that be like, can I go one more time around someone's neck? Can I drop someone on the top of their head? Or can I just get the biggest pop in the room? Things like that. Sometimes it's can I get up after that wonky power bomb? But just tempting fate and try to overcome the impossible.
I definitely understand that, especially when like I'm in the ring too, and I'm looking for like how can I get the biggest reaction that I can get, and
Hmm.
I gotta send I have to send my music back over to uh SWA and get it changed back to my original because when I came back after
Yeah.
leaving,
Yeah.
I forgot that I sent in the music because I wanted to return because I had jokingly done. And for those who don't know, you guys go to my YouTube, my personal YouTube page,
Mhm.
and you guys can see the promo I did for SWA where I had the Sailor Moon theme song in the background, and I came out to it, and I totally forgot to like change it. And so the second time I came when I was back just recently, it was still the I was like, you know what, we're just gonna go all out with this because it's still cool. And like
Hey,
so,
people
go ahead.
loved it. People loved it. People out there vibing, having a good time. Like everyone comes out and they're all mean and serious, and you're out there, you crack a smile, and instantly people know Red Dog, right?
That's the thing too, because I remember like when we got to tag up, like they, we'll say they pop for Robbie Page, right? Because that was our
Hmm.
tag partner. They
Yeah.
pop for you, then they pop for me, and I was like, I remember like looking over and seeing you just like fully energized, like getting the crowd involved too.
Yeah.
Like we were just like we were turned up like past 12, like we were
Yeah.
breaking all the volume buttons.
Well, you kind of have to, because what we were in there with like Kalua, right? Kalua is like 80s wrestling all
Yeah,
in one. Come out to it, and you're standing across the ring from that. I got to be as big as I can because that man's ginormous. So,
yeah. And he was like, he had like the whole because he's let's be real, man. He's got the Dancing Queen song,
oh
and
yeah,
like, yo, people vibe instantly to that. So you have to like come out with your own energy to get the crowd involved. Otherwise, it's just like, what are you
yeah.
doing?
He just ate your lunch on the on his entrance.
Yeah, and
He
this man,
didn't do anything. He just walked out, and now everyone's like, "Who's in the ring? Who's?"
who's that guy? Like, I don't remember. I see the dude with like the thing on his face, and then like with the big robes, and like you're like, damn
Yeah.
it, I have to match this.
Yeah.
It's one of those things with you, right? Is that like your character is recognizable because like, and this is where like I kind of I was glad I was able to pull some stuff because I've never told you this. This is the first
Hmm.
time. But I remember like watching you work a couple years ago, and I saw your costume, and it's pulls from the anime world, and I was like, bro, like I kind of want to do something that with Red Dog, where he's like this comedic kind of dude, and obviously like Deadpool became like the big play off of
Hmm.
it. But when I saw you with your getup as All Might, I was like, I have to get like it
Yeah.
has to be Deadpool. Like it has to make sense that it's like, oh, people say too, they're like, he's Deadpool light. And I was like, but this man literally has like the coolest costume in any room, any suit, any getup. His wrestling attire is on point. I was like, I have to match this because he's the top baby face. Why not?
Yeah, I think oh, someone told me like a long time ago, like, yeah, you can be an athlete or you can be a hero. What do you want to be? You can be athlete, hero, or villain. But if you're not in one of those categories, people are going to be looking to they're going to try to figure you out instantly, right? So you want to help them know who you are right off the get. And so, like, sometimes, like, especially with lucha traditions, we're larger than life, we're superheroes. And, there's those young lions, they come in from Japan, they're like, they're hard nosed athletes. Instantly, we know how to watch, we know what kind of fans we are, we know how to hook into them. That's all I'm trying to do is just make it easier to either cheer me or boo me, however you feel, you're going to feel something, right?
Yeah. And I think that's important is that like a genuine connection to the crowd is like so important. Is like and we've talked about it on the show like numerous times, but like at the end of the day, like what is your job as a wrestler, as a
Mhm.
performer, right? As an athlete, it's to get people to care. And the hardest thing it is yeah, making genuine connections and
Mhm.
having those genuine connections. And that's why I love like I got the opportunity to work at SWA, and like the first match I think I had, if I remember right, it was with King Kalua, like in the SWA
Mhm.
heavyweight championship match. It was like a debut for me. And I wasn't even supposed to be in that. I was like supposed to be in like a 6-pack challenge, just kind of among the shuffle. And
Yeah.
like TJ was like, no, bro, like I need someone for this person, and you're here, and I know how you work, and we're just
Yeah.
gonna put you right in. And when I see you come out, the crowd like instantly vibes because they get those, and you can see who like understands who, right? Because if you're like that 90s 2000s kid, you remember
Mhm.
like you remember Kamen. But then
Yeah.
like because your style, because your gear sometimes resembles that of My Hero Academia, like
Mhm.
young kids are like, oh my god, look who it is, it's fucking All Might.
Yeah. There's this, I don't know, it's just like I don't know, I just love, like, I get to be bigger than I ever was in my day-to-day life, right? I walk through my day-to-day life, and but when I step through the curtain, like, why not be the hero I always imagined myself being? Why not fight the good fight the way I always wanted to? And so when those kids I don't know, it's watching those Saturday morning cartoons, I always wanted to be one, and now I'm I am one, and it's great. And now I'm seeing these kids go, "Oh my god, it's real," and that's you can't beat that, right?
No, and that's such a beautiful thing though, because I know like for me as a kid, like growing up, like, and I guess that's why like I got attracted to Deadpool, was because
Mhm,
Deadpool was like, even though Deadpool had came out in the 90s, like he wasn't like a real strong character at the time, but like X-Men animated series was that. And so to have like you said, like
mhm,
you have those heroes that you kind of wrap yourself around, like the Batman animated series had came out, the
mhm.
Amazing Spider-Man had came out, like all these cool cartoons. And like just recently I had my daughter draw me up a picture of Red Dog in like a dark city, like with a cape pulled up. But
Uh-oh.
the pool, and she was like, "Oh, like Batman." I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Yes, but no, 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 no." No, I was
That
like
it's
Darkwing Duck.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Darkwing Duck, and she was like, "Oh," and so I sent her like a bunch of reference photos,
Uh-huh.
and she made this awesome design of like Red Dog, which coincidentally I didn't know this, but her reference photo was Porky Pig. Like she used Porky Pig as Red Dog, and then put a mask over his face, and then drew the cape. And I was like, "This is exactly what I was looking for." I was like, "It's so cool." And so it was pretty badass that like she got to understand like I'm trying to pull from like the 90s cartoons as well, and
Yeah.
add that to me.
That's cool that she was, not only that, but she was able to interpret it, right? It isn't just like seeing it, understanding it. She also could play with it in her own way, which is really cool because then there's like a sense of ownership over it,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and the beautiful thing about it too is like at this time, right? And this would be like a cool kind of stamp for me to remember for like the future.
Mhm,
But at this time, like she had just finished uploading like this whole thing about the Mayan culture, right? And
mhm,
she got to learn a little bit more about Panama, and like because I talk about it all the time with people that estoy panameño. I'm very proud of that, and she
mhm.
understands it too. So she found pictures of Panama and like the street layouts, and
Oh,
used the
wow.
skyline as it. So she's like, "Yeah, well, I know you wanted to interpret more of like the Panamanian culture and stuff, so I put the skyline in there for you." And I was like, "Hey, yo, I can't even be so proud."
Oh, wow, that's you you gotta do something with that, man. That's gotta be some you gotta print that and run prints of that. That's awesome.
Not just prints, man, but if we gonna stick it on T-shirts, it's going everywhere.
Yeah.
Be my new
No,
future design, future gear.
that's
I would
Alright.
like. I've thought about that. I've thought about like just getting a red cape and just like tying
Mhm.
it around, and like legit coming out as like Darkwing Duck, and just like stand on top of the rope and just be like, "Let's get dangerous."
You even got the voice. That's perfect.
But hey yo, let me know about this because this is something I've genuinely wanted to know. What was the
Mm.
moment that you were like, yeah, I gotta go into professional wrestling?
Oh man, probably like as a kid or as like a real career, I guess.
Yes.
All right. I think as a kid, it was probably I watched. I say it every time. It's just like I didn't really clock wrestling as a kid when I was really young until I saw Bret Hart, and then I was like, here's a guy who didn't look as big as everyone else, right? And all of a sudden, I was like, I could do that. And then he had his leather jacket and he had his glasses, and I was like, well, that's just the coolest thing in the world. Like he walked out and an arena erupted, and then he proceeded to like do cool things, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And so that was my sort of gateway. And then you could sort of see like those were the kind of guys that I gravitated towards. uh HBK and then The Rock, all the cool guys, right? The the smooth as butters kind of guys. And then and one day I just remember flipping over to WCW, and then my mind was blown when I saw cruiserweight wrestling. And I was like, what is happening over here? And and then Rey Mysterio came out, and I was like, who is this? And why is Spider-Man not on a wrestling show today? So I think that's pretty. As a kid, I was like, that's what like got me interested into it. I think in college, actually, it was one of those moments where because I played sports all through high school, and I never really thought I was going to do it, like be a wrestler. I thought I was going to be an actor because that's what I do. I'm an actor, so I thought I was going to act on the stage, hopefully make it into like do some screen work, and then someone just I remember someone just said, you should just go for it. I was like, why? It's like, what else are you gonna do? Like you either do it or you don't. I was like, you're right. There's no like half step. You try it and it's for you, or you don't and you always question it. So I remember trying it, doing it, and then and then I went to grad school for acting. But then I came back to it because I realized it's just something. I don't know. I love telling stories. I think at the end of the day, I love telling stories, and wrestling. You could tell wrestling stories, which is like comic books come to life.
Yeah.
Like like and we're not. Let's be real. We all wish we were in an MCU movie, right? But this is the closest we're gonna get to it.
This is true. One of my so it's funny because like you mentioned Rey Mysterio, and I remember Ray like Panama City, Panama, all pink
Mhm.
versus Dean Malenko,
Yeah.
and like say Panama City, Panama City,
Mhm.
Florida. But yeah, he was in Panama City and he was wrestling Dean Malenko. It was the first time I'd ever seen like this dude come out, and I was like, yo, why is he wearing all pink? It's kind of weird. But then he started doing all these flips, and I was like, who is this guy? And
Yeah.
like, yo, was like, I'm gonna watch this show every week just for that guy. And then I just remember like then he started coming out with like different suits, and I remember like
Mhm.
one time he came out. Well, let's be real. I'll say one time, but it was WCW Halloween Havoc '97 when he came out in the Phantom suit,
Oh
and
yeah.
I remember
Classic.
Phantom like being pushed so hard, right?
Mhm.
Everybody's talking about the four skulls and stuff like that. They have like the three in the ring,
Yeah.
and like then like seeing Rey Mysterio come out there and do his thing in it, I was like, yo, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I remember even when he became like unmasked and then put the mask back on when he went to WWE, the
Mhm.
dude like every costume was on fire. You couldn't tell me anything different about Rey Mysterio. I was like, he's the greatest wrestler of all time. And I still
Oh,
believe that to this day.
when he came out in that in Mania with that Aztec falcon head, that eagle head, I was like, you that is the coolest thing in the world to me. I'm like, you tied in tradition, heritage, pageantry, wrestling, your culture, all in this one moment. That was one of those rare moments where you were bigger. Rey Mysterio was like a cultural touchstone as opposed to just like a
Yep.
big wrestling celebrity. At that moment, he became a hero on a whole different level.
It was one of those things because I'll tell you that
Mm,
that was WrestleMania 22.
mhm,
And I will say this proudly: it's the first time I cried during a wrestling show because I had been following Rey Mysterio since '95, and
mm,
then to see him win the big one at
mhm,
WrestleMania with Kurt Angle and Randy Orton, I was like, this is such a beautiful moment for me. But the best part about that, he showed off like his culture, and then he rapped where he was from because if you remember, POD was singing his theme song, and they're from San Diego as well.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so Sunny is like a mainstay, and so to me, like it was just this awesome moment of all these things happening, and then he walked out on the stage, he turned around, he
mhm,
walked back, and then he ended up on top, and he just
yeah,
partied with POD, and I was like, this is life.
yeah. Like, I just could not. I don't know. Like, it's one of those moments where it's just like, if there was ever a goal in my life, it's to it's to do something like that. Like, of course, the match is great, but like, just that moment where you, I don't know, it's like up there with Undertaker, where it just supersedes wrestling and it becomes a whole thing unto itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, because like rate like and it is what it is. Hey, this could be the love fest of Raymond. I don't give a damn. Everybody, anybody who like, if you paid attention to the debate show on Sundays, we had a whole topic right where we talked about is Rey Mysterio's run in WWE, his latest run in WWE is lackluster, and
Mm.
man, Chaz and Damien made me go last, and I destroyed the whole topic. We talk about a close to a 10-minute rant of me talking about how stupid this topic was. Because like you're talking about a man who, like you've already said it, right? He reps the culture. He's very proud of being Latino.
Mhm,
He rocks out, like he loves San Diego. That's the hometown. Clearly his finisher, the 619, right?
mhm.
Like he's got all these things that go for him. And then like the costumes are on point every single time, whether he's any iteration of Batman, any iteration of Joker. He's coming out in the Black Panther gear. He has
Mhm.
like Wolverine,
Yeah.
Spider-Man numerous times. Like Silver Surfer was one of them. Like but he transforms this culture and transcends it, and just everybody knows. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you know who Rey Mysterio is, and that's the
Yeah,
craziest part.
exactly, like, you don't even have to watch wrestling, but when you think of, like, when you think of a luchador, you think of Ray's mask,
Yeah,
right? That's how, like, ubiquitous he is. Like, people wear his mask and they don't even know who he is. They're just like, that's just wrestling. That's what wrestling looks like to them. And I was like, that's how it's like, I don't know. It's almost like it's like a title. It's just like he's one of his mask, his presence, his person is one, like, just one of those icons of wrestling now that people just take for granted. But if you think about it, like we're saying, like in the mid 90s, like 96, he was carving the way. Like he was pushing a boulder up the hill, because that was like the time of Hogan. That was all the big boy, big body stuff, right?
yeah,
Where the big boys play. That's where he was. And I was just like,
and
him
yeah,
and him and Eddie Malenko, they were all like in Jericho, like baby Jericho. I was like,
the Lionheart, Chris
yeah, I was
Jericho. Like, and those are the things, like, those were my influences too, was, like, Dean and Eddie,
mm-hmm,
Chris, Rey Mysterio, clearly, like, I'm not
mm-hmm,
gonna hide. Sting, obviously, you know what I mean? And then you have Goldberg
mm-hmm,
and or not Goldberg, but, Austin and Rock,
yeah,
obviously from WWE, and Shawn Michaels, because DX was doing her things too, and they were cool. But it's
yeah,
like, you had, like, to me, it not everybody was gonna be a 6-foot guy, and when I realized that I was stuck at 5'10", I was like, "Bro, like, I'm just gonna enjoy who this is, right?" And like model my game after some of these guys. So like, Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho just
mm-hmm,
became the dudes I just like watched and studied the game, and then paid
mm-hmm,
attention to, guys who were much smaller, like, Shawn Michaels. Clearly he was able to tell great stories. But then like you're watching Rey Mysterio work, and I know people are like, well, not everybody's gonna do flips like Rey Mysterio and blah 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 blah. Yeah, but what Ray does is he is listen, the dude's been wrestling for since 1994. and
Mhm.
has only played the heel one time, and that was in WCW at the end of a run, and he was even a heel. People just
Yeah,
cheered him like because they loved Ray.
yeah. He came out and he could do everything wrong, and at that moment, it was like Jerry Springer time. People cheered him nonetheless, right? They're like, "Yeah, we love it." Oh man, it was just yeah. Thinking back to that, because I remember having the same realization too. Like, I didn't break 5'7". I was like, "Oh, I'm never going to be The Rock." Damn, that's it for me.
You're just
And
looking
then
up like, "God, that looks like it could be a fun height someday."
yeah, one day I'll grow up.
Yeah, that's why I be joking about that all the time. Where I tell people, I'm like, "Man, I just want to be like you when I grow up," and
Yeah,
they don't realize I'm talking about like how tall they are.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm never gonna get to that height, man. It'll be just
And it's
5'10" for me. That's how I'm alright with that.
and it's just like I don't know, but once I realized that it was an asset, I was like, "Oh, that's great." Like, you don't have to be X-Pac. You could do anything.
Yeah,
Because I'm and then, along those same lines, when Liger and Ultimo came through, I was like, "There's there's other people like this?" Right? I was like, "This is more than just, like, Silver King and Ray?" Like, that's what, like, opened my mind to it. Like, all of a sudden, I didn't because it was like treated sort of like a novelty for like lucha wrestling was treated like very much like a novelty. I remember the
yeah,
brain going, "Oh yes, this import, this one of a kind thing," and then all of a sudden, like you see Ultimo Dragon coming in, wrestling a similar but his own unique style, and all of a sudden I'm like, "Wait, that's from Japan and that's from Mexico. This is a legitimate. This is a legitimate. This is not just a little trick that Rey Mysterio does. This is a whole school. That's a whole style to itself."
yeah.
So.
And and the crazy thing is like it's still and people are like, well, I don't do all those flippy dippy stuff. So I'm like, yeah, but the thing is even those flippy dippy things that you're talking about, like, do
Mhm.
still tell a beautiful story that you can kind of follow up, right? Like Eddie Guerrero wasn't the guy that was like flipping around. He was a smaller dude, but guess what? He was still able to tell those same similar stories that like you were
Mhm.
telling, but he was working at a different work rate, and the crowd was over with him, and they loved Eddie Guerrero. And when like the LWO was a thing back in the
Mhm.
90s, right? The crowd vibed with them because they understood what they were trying to fight for. And it wasn't like
Mhm.
they weren't a bunch, it was just a bunch of smaller dudes who were like, hey, yo, we want to be on the same level as y'all guys and we're gonna get there. And it was cool. And I
Yeah.
think when I look back at like that time, and I remember like not never getting to that height that I was like, I would be 6'2", 6'3",
Yeah.
never touched that. I was like, all right, man, well, sabes que we're gonna
Yeah.
rep with the familia la raza, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think like you're right. Like, yeah, I think yeah, that's something that I think I hear a lot of people like you're saying, like it's style, flips and stuff. I'm like, every style of wrestling still tries to accomplish the same thing. Like we were saying from the very top, you want to feel the story, right?
Yep.
Like, how many times can we watch a Rocky movie tell the same story, and yet we'll always watch the Rocky movies? Like, literally, it's the same story.
It's not ending any differently. That's the
Yeah,
craziest part. Never. You
yeah,
know what?
and but
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, and like, not only did we watch Sylvester Stallone do it, we watched Adonis do it, right? We watched Michael B. Jordan do it. Like, that's how much. Like, if the story pops and you're feeling it, you'll come back and see any variation of it, whether it's in a boxing movie, whether it's lucha style, puro style, hardcore death match, or just straight tech, right? If they're telling a really good story, you're gonna cheer. You're gonna cheer and you're gonna boo and you're gonna cry and you're gonna laugh, right?
100%. I think that's the beauty about pro wrestling though versus like other art forms. And not that I'm knocking any other art form, right? If you watch Rocky the movie,
Hmm.
if you watch it 10 times, chances are it's not changing because it's permanent, right? You're not
Yeah.
watching it the 10th time, but like, maybe this time they'll get a full winner instead of a tie, right? Spoiler for those who haven't seen it yet. but like, when you go to a wrestling show, sometimes the match changes. Even though
Yeah.
you may, oh, I've seen these guys before. They've worked. Oh, yeah, they're really good together, and they tell great stories. And yeah, we should expect Red Dog to win. What do you mean Red Dog lost? Like, I'm so mad. Like he should have won. Like
Right. It's like
yeah,
they get involved and they want to make the bet. They want to make the bet, right?
yeah,
Like, oh, who was I talking to? I was actually talking to someone. I was like, wrestling is really unique in that it's one of the few art forms of storytelling where like the hero needs the audience to progress the story,
yeah,
right? Like if like say I'm in the moment and I'm just in some like lock or something. I don't know if I can get out. And then all of a sudden the crowd starts willing me to get out. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, we should get out. The crowd wants me to get out. Right? Versus like you said in Rocky, it's like it doesn't matter. The music and the timing and the actual little number on the tape deck is gonna hit and he will always hit that move to get out.
yeah. Well, it's
But
like
yeah.
for those who are like just looking at it as like, why? What? Listen, man, Rocky 3, okay? Like it doesn't matter how many times. Okay, Thunder Lips is always gonna hit the leg drop, no matter
Yeah.
what. We'll rate this to wrestling for you guys who are like out here like, man. You know what I tell people though? I tell people like
Mm,
wrestling is so unique because like you can boo, you can cheer,
mhm.
you can be that asshole out there that's like, this is fake. But the one thing that doesn't like when though it's the only place where you can get away with that and know like, oh, like I'm involved with this because I tell people this all the time. I was like, imagine that you're at a musical, right?
Mhm.
And Lin Manuel Miranda comes out and just starts rapping. Nobody goes, Hamilton wasn't Puerto Rican. Like nobody says it. Nobody calls out the fallacies. No one goes, this isn't, listen, Aaron Bourne wasn't black. Like, no one says that. Like, it's not a thing. We just sit back and enjoy the ride. But regardless,
Yeah.
like, you're going to cheer along. You're going to get along with the show, right? And I think it's funny how in wrestling, people are always like, people who don't like wrestling or don't watch wrestling because they're like, it's fake. It's not real. They're not really punching each other. Right. But when you're there, you feel that energy. And guess what? You are just like you're a kid. Like you're back
Yeah.
to watching the Mighty Ducks, right? Like you're
Yeah.
like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I laugh at people because I'm like, go to a show. Go to a show, just sit in the crowd. And you could be that asshole who sits here like this whole time.
Mhm.
Bet you're gonna laugh. Bet you're gonna smirk. Bet you're gonna be
Mhm.
like, oh, you're gonna have some kind of
Yeah.
emotion because you
So
have to.
you're gonna feel something, right?
Yeah.
Like I always tell people, yeah, like you said, go to see a show because I'm like, people will. It's easy to judge it when it's on a screen, right? But as soon as you're in the same room as someone who gets backdropped, you're like, oh, you're like the human in you goes, that must have sucked. like
Right.
like as soon as you see someone take some weird wonky brain buster, so the human in the audience goes, oh, you can be as cynical as you want to be, but when you see someone dropped on their neck, you're like, oh, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, and I think that's like, it's one, like, it's hard to, it's like music. When you hear music on the radio, when you hear music on, like, when you're streaming it, it's not the same as when you see it live, right?
Right.
And especially like they could all of a sudden just cover the song or change the lyric or just react to you in the space, right? And that's why you want to see it live. You can have heard the song 1,000 times. You're going to show up and you're going to hope that it's going to be a little different. Maybe they'll sing it a little off. Maybe they'll say your name this time, right? That's what makes it cool.
That's what makes it cool.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna front. My wife has a version of "You and I" by Lady Gaga. Right.
Hmm.
It's my favorite rendition of it. Why? Because she talks about Nebraska, where I'm from.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go, and I'm in their full voice. You and I,
Yeah.
yeah, like you gotta get involved. You're gonna get involved. And that's why I think that's why I like to tell people, I'm like, yeah, you can judge wrestling, based off of like what you see on TV, and you're gonna be like, yo, it's fake. But I bet if you watch that same match with like two or three other people who really like enjoy wrestling, or even if they don't, they're just watching, you're gonna get a reaction. You're
Yeah.
gonna talk trash about something. It's the Marvel movies, right? You
Yeah.
could be like, again, you could be that guy that's sitting in the back and be like, Robert Downey Jr. didn't really die, or you can be that guy that goes, God, I cannot believe that Tony Stark snapped his fingers, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you're like devastated because you know Tony Stark isn't going to be in the MCU for the rest of the time. You're upset, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
You can do any way you want to do the mental gymnastics. As soon as you do start playing that what if game, you're hooked, right? Even if you're in the back going, that ain't real, then all of a sudden you're arguing and you're engaged with the material,
yo,
right? Like
I did-
even if I get hit in the head and they go, that ain't real. They could have hit him a little harder or something. I'm like, but now you're watching.
but now you're paying attention. Now you're
Yeah.
hooked. Yo, actually, speaking of bumps and hits, right? I just want to know,
Mhm.
what's the worst bump you've taken?
Oh God. Probably a shoot tombstone. Someone called it on the fly, and they didn't hook me right, and they actually tombstoned me,
Oof.
like straight up and down. I went straight down. I was in there with like Gabby Gilbert, and Gabby shoved me out of the ring, and because she was my tag partner, and she came up to me. She's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I don't know," and she's like, "All right, stay here. I'm gonna go in there and talk to them." And I peeked my head up from the apron, and she's just chopping the crap out of people. But that was probably, I think that wasn't the most painful, but that was legitimately probably one of the more scarier things I've ever done. Because I was like, I remember being told in training, like, uh, go up for it honestly, because that's always going to be the safer way to do it, right? If you half it, if you're a little wuss about it, chances are you will get hurt because you didn't commit to it.
Yep.
This time I really committed, and the guy just let me slide right through his arms.
Mm.
So, how about
And
you?
that's,
What was the roughest bump you took?
oh man, well, I have a couple of them.
We
One of them
all do.
actually, yeah. My the one that I always remember, like, it's the first one that always plays in my mind, was when I it was probably my second month training,
Mhm,
and mind you, the place that I got trained at, we train outside,
mhm.
and so it was like February, and it was at a cold February morning, and I thought to myself, you know, what's a great idea? I want to try Akira Tozawa's like giant senton, even though I really don't bump that much. And found out very quickly why you bump in the center of the ring
Oh
and not,
no!
not on like near the buckles. And yeah, I remember
Oh,
like all the air leaving my lungs. And my trainer just looked at me right in the face. He goes, "Hey, did we learn a lesson?" I was like, "Yeah, we learned a very good lesson."
yeah.
It-
Oh
that was
god.
that was the worst self bump that I did.
Mhm,
Um, one another bump that I did that sucked, but it wasn't anybody's fault. Like, if that makes sense, it's weird to
mhm,
say it that way. Um, actually, you weren't in the match, but you were there when it
mhm.
happened. And he doesn't know this yet, but he's about to find out. So, we were working a four-way match. It was the Sweet 16 at EWA,
Oh, okay.
and uh and Dino wanted someone to take the book in, right? And
Mhm.
chat. And mind you, I love taking dojo bumps. Like, I have no quarrels with this, right? I
Yeah.
had friends in the audience. All my coworkers from my job came to see me. So I was like, I'm about to go dumb extra with this.
Yeah.
And Chaz was like, yo, get Cliff to do it. Cliff loves taking these bumps. And Dino was like, yo, can you do this? I was like, hell yeah, I got you. And so when we get ready to go right in this bookend, I and everybody, Chaz told him, "Hey, yo, Cliff can jump, so just hang on to him."
Yeah, yeah.
and,
Pull him
and
back down.
yeah, unfortunately, that did not happen. And when I landed, I don't know if I like twisted my hips or whatever, but my
Oh.
lower back just went gone.
Oh
And
god.
like, I didn't feel it at the time because my adrenaline was pumping and I just was going through the match. But
Yeah.
the next morning I woke up and I was like, "Oh, what happened?" I go back and watch the match. And unfortunately, Andino was trying his best to hold me down, but like you could see it looked like a choke slam that he just like he kind of like lost me. And Yeah, so when I hit, like, I just twisted everything, and I remember that following Monday, my boss was like, "Dude, that man was awesome, and when you took that rock bottom, bro, I was like, oh my god." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna front, bro. I'm feeling kind of rough from that right now."
I'm glad you liked it. Can I sit down today?
But that was one of the ones I was like, yeah, it kind of sucked, but I did it myself, and I knew I was like, I know I'm about to go dumb with this, and from then on, like anybody who told me to like, yo, I'm gonna hit you with a rock bottom, I'm like, listen, bro, you're gonna lose me. They're like, what? I
Yeah.
was like, you're gonna lose me because one, I'm an idiot, and two, I'm going to jump through your arm, and you're gonna have to try to hold me down. And he was like, everybody's like, sure, whatever. And credit to and Dino, right? Actually, because funny, I wrestled for that SWA title too.
Mhm,
The second time that we worked in New Jersey,
mhm.
he held me. He held me up because like he knew I was gonna go dumb with it too. And so like he was here and then he got to his tiptoes and then just followed me back down. And yeah, it was cool. But yeah, that first time, like he didn't know it was gonna happen the way it did. I just went up like a rocket ship and crashed like,
Sheesh.
just as
That
bad.
yeah, yeah, I think the most painful thing I ever took was when I did a top rope suicida, like a hero over the
Yeah.
top, and when I cut the flip, no one caught me.
Oh.
They were supposed to catch me, but they did that jump when they're like, and so I effectively had power bombed myself from inside the ring to the outside of the ring. And I
Yeah.
remember laying there, and so they came up to me and like, "You all right?" And I threw my mask, like, "No!" And they ended up doing my work, and I just rolled under the ring because I remember being told if you're fucked up, just put your head under the ring for a little bit.
Just
If you
come
gotta
out there.
puke, puke. If you gotta take your mask off to breathe, put your head under the ring. So
Just, I would that's such a like of course I'm not okay. Like with this podcast, like I've heard a lot of people talk about a lot of bumps that they've taken that like
yeah,
it was just bad.
mhm.
Whether they were called or not, like right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like not like that's what okay, so I'm honest with people, like I don't get to catch very often, so like
Mm,
I'm not comfortable with it. And so when people ask me, I'm like, yo, listen, just be honest, bro. I would just have rather have you do like uh, a show dive, right?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
jump over and I'll catch you. Like I have no problem with that. But you dive through those ropes, homie. It is a life and risk. It's a life or death situation because when you come through, I will reach for you and I will try to pull you in. I'm not comfortable yet, and I'm just gonna let you know. But you go over the top rope,
Yeah.
bro. Like I hope you can land because I'm just gonna do my best. Like I'm not there yet. So I worry
So
about it all the time.
I ended up asking like afterwards, I remember talking to my trainer. I was like, how do you because he's famous for doing it. He like does step off springboards off the top to the outside. And I asked him, how do you get used to that? And he's like, yeah, it's a gamble every time. What do you want? I was like, well, what would you do? He's like, look at the house and look at your pay and then decide what kind of dive you're gonna do.
Yo, bruh, that's a great thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, did you get paid a lot of money? No. All right, show dive is what you're
Yep, yep.
house
Catch
dive.
give me a house. You're getting the house. That's all you're getting. But if it's like big show, all right. And if you're looking out there and you got like 10 guys who all know how to catch you, fine, whatever, go for it.
Yeah, I'm going dumb crazy. I'll be doing like a backflip off the top, like to go to the outside. But if I can't trust you, dog, I will take cut me off. Like I'm going for a dive.
No, yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I'm not fully committing to this idea.
I had worked this show where it was up at Super Crazy. I don't know if you've been in their old space. They used to have like a balcony
Yeah,
where and the bathroom was up there. And then I remember they were the two guys were working on the very top. So it was like 3 stories up. And they just threw each other off. And we were like a bunch of us were on the down. We were just we're just hockey fighting, looking up, going, we have to save this man's life today. Like I'm not even doing anything crazy except saving a man's life. And literally, they just came flying down, and I remember getting clocked in the head by one of their boots. And I was like, and I just crawled over. I forget who was in there. I think it was Danger Hawk was in there with me or something. I crawled over to Danger, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And I remember Danger grabbed me, put me in a sleeper, and goes, "You stay right here with me."
I worked a match, Rage in a Cage, actually.
Mhm.
Actually, and if people go back and look at the episodes, you guys will see I had like the massive beard. This was the time where like I had no idea. I was like, I just grew out this beard because I was like, yo, this is kind of badass. But I got shit whipped by accident. No
Mhm.
fault to anybody, right? But I took a German pad and
Mhm.
I just saw bright white and I was like, yo, I'm not okay. So I remember like, hey man, she like hit me.
Yeah.
He's like, yo, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I don't think so. He's like, all right, we're going home. And he's like, don't move. And just, it's like, yo, he's just hitting me. I was like, all right.
You could have done anything else in this moment.
But he's just like, no, it's okay. Just you're right here. Like, don't move.
I got you. I got you. I got you.
I was like, could be concussed. Oh well, who knows? I'm just gonna take more forearms to the face. It is what it is at this point.
Because apparently that's the safest thing we can think of in the moment.
Is that weird? Is that weird that
Yeah.
we do that though? Like a person will be injured. Let's just say like, oh, they injured their left arm, right?
Mm.
And like that's what we do to like sell the injury. We're like, we'll just attack their arm because it's the safest thing. You're like, you know, like they
No,
can't do any worse, can they? Like, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Like, you
this is not a situation where we should try and experiment.
like, oh well, like he's got a right knee injury. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go attack the knee. And you're like, damn, bro. Like, yeah, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah, maybe we just we just pin him and go home and
Yeah,
make sure he can walk.
yeah,
It ain't that serious, right?
no,
Again, I think about this. Who was I talking? I was like, in any other sport, major injury happens, they'll stop, they'll walk out a stretcher, they'll walk clear him out. We're one of the few sports where like major injury happens, we gotta cover for it.
it just beat on his leg. Yeah, a chair shot, a concerto to the ankle. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's
and then
fractured. We'll just write him off. Like,
right, and then he can sell down for a little bit. That's enough time for him to get over it, right?
yo, wrestling. Yeah, we really do live in this like ridiculous world of pro wrestling.
You just told me you might have got concussed, and another man was like, "I'm gonna save your life."
Yo, hey man, you know what? Shit happens. What I mean, I think about it too. Like, I like the fact that someone like I'm gonna put you in a sleeper hole because I remember getting lost in a match one time, and I just
Mhm.
grabbed dude and I just put him in a rear naked choke, and I was just like, where are we and what are we doing now? He's like, just stay here. Somebody will kick you in the back. I'm like, okay, that's what I did. Right here, man. We just staying locked. But it was funny because then yeah, then we finally got back into our spots and we started doing like where we were supposed to go. But I was like, bro, I just whatever, man. We're gonna stay here and just do our thing.
Weird moments, right? Yeah,
It
just
is,
hold my head, and someone's gonna kick you behind in your back of your head, right?
yeah,
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll be all right. Yo, let me ask you this question, and then we're
Hmm.
gonna jump into my favorite part of the 3 Count podcast. What's the hardest lesson you've had to learn being in the business?
Hardest lesson I've had to learn. Yeah, I think the hardest lesson I probably had to learn is nothing is permanent. Everything's fleeting, and what you thought. And you think you know people, but you really never know people.
Mm.
Um, yeah, because and I think the hardest, and I'll just say it, the hardest lesson I ever learned probably happened June 2020 when Chikara closed. So,
Mm.
and all the fallout from that. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that tweet go out, and I was like, oh.
mhm. So yeah, there was a lot. I spent a lot of time there, and with a lot of those people, and all of a sudden I was like, within like 20 to 48 hours, like I don't know, but I've just spent the past 5 years of my life with these people, right? But and now it's like gone in 48 hours.
Yeah.
So that's probably hardest thing. Like it's fleeting. Enjoy it, and when it's gone, just bless and release and move on, right?
So it's a great lesson to have.
Mhm.
All right, well, we're gonna jump over to my favorite segment of the 3 Count Podcast. That is the 3 Count Podcast 10 count questions. And Mr. MK, this is how it works. I'm gonna fire off 10 questions at you rapid fast, and whatever your answer is, that is your answer.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna put on the imaginary timer for added pressure. Bing! And in the words of my favorite commentator, Mike Goldberg, here we go. SmackDown or Raw?
SmackDown.
Favorite movie?
Rocky.
Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Favorite TV show?
Friends.
Marvel or DC?
Marvel.
Favorite cartoon?
Batman.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Favorite podcast?
3 Count Podcast.
Let's go. That's right, baby. Nominate one person that you want to see on this podcast.
Hollow Wicked.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. And then last but not least, my favorite question to ask every single person who comes on this podcast. Favorite curse word?
Damn.
A good old Ron Simmons is definitely necessary sometimes.
Oh, in my head, every time I say it, I wish I had the conviction that he did.
I feel you because he definitely has that ability to just like change the whole tone. When he pops up on TV, you already know what's going down, and in your mind, you're like, "Damn!"
Like with that one damn, I feel threatened. I feel like I disappointed my dad. I feel like I'm gonna get my ass kicked, and I'm laughing all at the same time.
Yeah. Facts. All right, bet. Well, those are all my questions for you. So the last thing I need for you is let our listeners and our viewers know where they can find you.
Yeah, on X and on Instagram. Kamen _MK_. That's KAMEN_MK_.
Oh, well, there you go. He gave you his handles. He told you where you could find him. He even showed you his cool title that's right behind him. And, that means we got to take this home because this is the 3 Count Podcast presents Now Entering, and I'm your host, Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And like every good shirt, but it's never about me. It's about who's entering. So who's entering? You see him right there. Kamen, MK. And you guys know what to do. Tune in to the next episode and be there. Or you're legitimately following us on all of our social media platforms. You're checking us out on Spotify. You're even subscribed to our YouTube channel. You're listening to us on Amazon Music. You're even leaving those 5-star frog splash on Apple Podcasts. You're even going out of your way to check us out on that dumb podcast that one dumb platform with the stupid jingle, the one that goes iHeartRadio or whatever it is. You're checking us out on foryourwear.com, buying all of our merch there, or even checking us out on prowrestlingtees.com. You're doing all that stuff. You're telling your mom, your dad, your uncle, your aunties, your friends, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, that one person that you had in your family tree, but then you removed and you brought him back and you let him go again. And then you're telling your pets and your enemies, because we love haters too. You're doing all that stuff, or you're really just kind of waiting for this episode to end. You're waiting for that outro, and then you're choosing another episode to listen to. Kawaii. What's going on? It is Clifford Red Dog Miller, the man that leads you up that mountain called wrestling. And what we need from you guys is to kind of show us some support, right? We want you guys to go to our YouTube channel at the 3 Count Podcast, go on to our Twitch channel, 3 Count Pod, or even our Facebook page, 3 Count Podcast, and just give us a like, follow, subscribe, even give us a comment, right? Do all that cool stuff. Share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies, right? Or you can even come talk to us and just chat us up, right? Find us on Twitter at 3count_pod. Find us on IG and on TikTok at 3 Count Pod. Go ahead and leave us those comments. We want to hear from all of you guys. We're going to keep putting on videos and stuff like that. We want to keep making this content better, so we want your guys' support. Also, if you guys want to, go support us at prowrestlingtees.com/the 3 Count Podcast, or even find us on foryourwear.com. Give us the support. Show us your guys' love, because we want to give it right back to y'all. So, in the meantime, between time, love y'all.